I've got a baby right here who needs to sleep.
Fair enough. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Frostside Chat, our weekly live streamed post-session discussion where we talk about what just happened during D&D. This is the chat for session 30. If you've not watched that session yet, please do that now because there will be spoilers. I'm your DM, Eric, and joining me, we have Robin's player, Chris.
Hello, what did just happen in this? What didn't happen?
What didn't happen? And Edmund/Dearth's player, Raymond.
There you go. You got it right.
I got it right. It's getting to be tricky. It's hard to tell where one ends and the other begins, I think. Oh,
especially with the murder of that Dwerger lady, the captain.
Yeah, I
didn't expect that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go and give you inspiration, by the way, now for starting the entire fucking rebellion and standing up for your dad like that, taking a shot across. I allowed a little DM magic just to have him shoot at you because that needed to happen.
There need to be some.
There needed to be some consequences for that, narratively.
Yeah.
And a cinematic shot. Yeah. So, good lord.
Yeah.
I seriously didn't know what I was gonna do.
I didn't know what you're doing either. I thought what I thought was that maybe he's gonna go in that room and try to handle those 3 guards somehow. Like he's gonna deal with them, send them away, something.
Mm-hmm.
No clue this was what was gonna happen.
Well, I don't know if this helps or not. Part of me kind of forgot why I got sent out and how things. I mean, it kind of worked out too. The strong, hard, Prince Derv is not gonna just back away and hide. He's gonna come back and stand up to his father. But I kind of forgot, hey, they thought we were betrayers and stuff like that. So that's why I blatantly just went up and I've returned.
Yeah, I think you played the part really well, and notice how I didn't have you roll any social checks or anything, and because in my mind you were acting exactly how Dearth would act. And even you turning against the father was probably something that Tartarok expected as well. It even says in the book that he specifically is, he's paranoid and views his own sons as a threat to him. And so he specifically...
I think we heard that before.
Yeah, I think Grandalfa might have said something about that, but he specifically sent the sons out on these dangerous kind of missions to get them away from the main base. So he hasn't been happy that they've returned.
Have returned.
Yeah.
Are you getting a little worried about how much I'm turning into Dearth?
That's amazing. That's been really funny.
So it's a little scary, yeah.
It's probably scary for your party members, yeah.
Yeah.
True. I may never turn back.
Honestly, that might have been your best strategy, though, in terms of how to A, create a noticeable distraction, and B, take out some of these Dwergar, was just inciting that big rebellion. Now, you didn't know how many Grandalfa actually had loyal to her, and it turns out a good number.
I'm glad you remember that, Raymond, because until you started talking, I literally forgot there was that subplot of there's some not loyal Dwergar here.
Mm-hmm.
Totally forgot that was a thing. Had no idea how we're gonna handle the room. But as soon as you started talking, I was like, all right, he's just gonna okay, this is gonna work.
Mm-hmm.
And I know y'all laugh because I keep bringing up the genocider, but that is the tying factor that is the basis for this rebellion. The honey mead was promised at Grandalfa. There's no more honey mead.
Oh, it's gone. Yeah.
Yeah, we destroyed the bees and whatever.
Yep.
So she's not gonna get what she was promised.
She's in the mead. Yeah, she's in the mead industry. She was basically wanting I think she wanted the mead factory. I don't know if she wanted the honey mead itself. But maybe she would have.
But it's destroyed.
It is.
Yeah.
And so I'm offering her something better.
That's right. At this point, Eric, I do want you to recognize. Raymond's done it now, but this is no longer just a joke.
Oh, I know.
This is like an in-universe thing.
This has created a thing.
Is happening.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys are making this a thing.
It's
not going away. Yeah, so we're getting ahead of it, but so you guys did the torture chamber thing.
Mm-hmm.
Was that a surprise to all of you? Did you expect the captain to be more helpful, or?
Yeah,
well, I'll be honest. I expected Raymond to back me up on my play.
That was funny the way you guys just immediately fell apart on that. The language barrier was funny too, where like some people understood some and some didn't understand others.
Yep.
Which is weird because you think at some point like somebody would learn bits and pieces of common. But maybe Dwarger, maybe not, because they
have no reason to
learn. The country, a lot of folks know English, but not everybody.
Yeah, that's true.
But the Dwarger have no reason to learn common.
Yeah.
Right. They don't. Yeah, they don't.
But I mean, a lot of them are, up in the, they're like the Dearth, where they were in the city, and it might have been useful for them to hear certain phrases or things. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, the guys in the fortress probably don't. But yeah, I treat it as written in the book, where she is, even though she's being tortured and captured and accused of being a conspirator, she is actually completely falsely accused, and she is 100% loyal to Zardarok.
But I guess what I figured was that being tortured by Zardarok would, put a chink in her loyalty.
Yeah.
But I guess not.
No.
So in that scenario, neither of our ploys were going to work.
Yeah.
Because both of them relied on her not being loyal to Zardarok.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of the big twist of it, was that even after all this, she was still like wanting to prove her loyalty in the end, and she was, and in fact during the if you remember that kind of cutscene at the end of the last session, where she was telling Zardarok, like, no, it's Grandalfa that's the conspirator and everything.
Yeah.
And you all know that that's true, but he wasn't going to hear it, so.
Right.
And so I had no choice but to kill her.
And honestly, I'll call back what I called back in the session. I got no moral qualms with what happened. It was very much the very first scene of Game of Thrones, where Ned Stark executes that dude because he abandoned his post. Like, this reminded me of that, where it was like, all right, she's literally chosen this. Like, she said, like, all right, I would just rather die than, give up.
You guys still chose to kill her, though.
I mean, yeah. But once again, was Ned Stark a bad guy? He executed folks.
He's not a good guy.
I don't know. I'm saying they've done those D&D charts of like who falls into what category into alignment. Ned Stark's always in the good one.
Really?
Yeah. He's always. I think he's like neutral good is where I saw him land.
He's got to be lawful.
Maybe lawful good. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
You're gonna find one, but anyway, that's a tangent.
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't feel any moral.
This was not somebody who abandoned their post. This was somebody who was literally just doing their thing, and then all of a sudden they were accused of something that they had no part of, and they were tortured for it.
After she was aware of the situation, that we were enemy combatants, and that we were going to allow her to live if she cooperated.
Yeah.
She was still like, kill me. Like she was just like, I'd rather die than
She was, yeah.
Yeah.
But you guys still made the choice to. I mean, that's obviously I wasn't going to stop you, but I thought it was. I'd be interesting if the other two players were here, if they would have still let that happen.
Yeah.
And honestly, I couldn't think of what questions to ask her. Like, I didn't know what information she might know.
That would be helpful to us.
She knows everything. She's the captain of the guard. She literally knows everything about this, but she was going to be it was going to be very tricky for you guys to get any information out of her. Yeah, I mean, she was already being tortured and stuff, so she already, So, yeah, it was not in your favor to try to get information out of her. I don't know if you...
I don't know how much information we would have gotten that we didn't get from what we just saw. You know, like we just saw the entirety of the, setup here.
Yeah, she would know specifically any, like, layouts and traps and all that information. But, again, you don't know what to ask, and it would be very hard to get that information out of her.
I did pick up on your defiant, Nate tone. Like, even after I stabbed her in the arm, she was still defiant. So I'm like, well, she's not going to give in. She's, like, close to death, but not, begging for life or cooperating or anything. So
it would most likely have taken some kind of magical coercion to literally force her to give up any information.
Right.
Because I don't think willfully it would have been... I mean, I guess maybe I could have tried a charisma check there, but I was just trying... I mean, it's almost more fun if you just treat it like a narrative thing. It's like... You don't want... Because you don't want social checks to be mind control or be... it can maybe... If somebody's already on the fence, it can sway them, but I'm always leery about making social checks more powerful than what a spell would do.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I had prepped all these different rooms and things that you kind of got glimpses of around this area because I didn't know what you could have ignored. But what I did do, this was a kind of a last minute thing I talked about at the very end of the crafting stream, was prep an actual event happening that you stumble upon.
Oh, okay. The speech he was given?
Yeah, fucking Raymond's room looks like a horror movie right now, by the way. It's just blinking light and darkness. It literally looks like it's a fucking strobe horror. You see this effect?
It's like different colors?
Yeah. I'm just picturing at some point it's gonna be light up and there's just a fucking demon like lurking behind you. Well, so what I did, because in the book it's just usual. It's just you go to a room and there's guys in here. You go to a room and there's guys in here. So I try to make these things more dynamic, and essentially created this big ceremony cutscene that was happening. Now the tricky thing was, I was like, okay, when do I trigger this though? Like, at what point does this scene happen? I thought, well, fuck it. If he can already see, as soon as you turn the corner and see this watchtower, you can basically see this giant forge because it's kind of lit up, and you get that view. So I was like, once I started describing it, I was like, fuck it, I'm just going all in, and we're just going to describe this scene right here, even though you guys barely left this hallway.
Yeah.
And then that does get the ball rolling and create that complication, which is, oh shit, as you correctly picked up on, oh shit, they're going to go down and see that the Mind Flayer has been freed, and that's going to start some shit.
Yeah.
And you did correctly pick up on the fact that you needed to act on that information.
Right. Yeah. What I didn't understand until near the end of the session it was later. It was relatively early on because I tried to use Thimbleweed to counter it. I didn't realize just how closely tied those two rooms were. I thought there was more separation.
Yeah.
To where we were going to be able to ambush those Quaggas outside of the awareness of the big room.
Yeah.
But when we got there, the way you were describing it, and when there was a guard just standing right there, I was like, oh no, these are the same room when the doors are open.
Yeah, the door literally opens into the forge. Area. Yeah, that forge is a huge area. Yep. Yeah, that's tricky thing for a player, because as a DM, obviously, I'm just staring at this whole map, and a lot of times I forget that you guys have no idea, and sometimes even get turned around in the same area.
Yeah.
About what you're looking for, but I tried to give you guys the benefit in terms of okay, they're coming in, I'm not going to trigger oh, they see you, but I'm like, all right, you guys have a chance, because you're based on the information, they're coming in, or know how much time you have, and I just said okay, they're coming in right when you guys come in, so whatever you guys do it now, and then that'll start the fight essentially.
Yeah, which is why my priority immediately became shutting those doors.
Yeah.
If I don't, this is all just one big fight room with everything in the forge room and then everything down here.
And that would have potentially been extremely difficult for you guys. And then I think Edmund pulled the correct move to immediately do something even crazier.
Yep.
Which is to openly rebel against his father, start off the big Duergar rebellion, and basically rolled the dice on I hope there's enough rebels here, and sure enough, there were. You don't know if it's enough to have them win, but it's certainly enough to tie everything up.
Yeah,
and have them fight each other for the moment.
A fighting chance, you could say.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it's really all we need. Yeah, after having seen how many Duergar are in there, that's just all we need. Is we just need them to all fight each other just a little bit, so we have a chance, and they're not all against us.
Yeah, and honestly, next time, which it's gonna be tricky because we're gonna be coming back after so much time. But if you guys want to immediately just start combat initiative again and say, okay, let's burst in there when this is going down, you can certainly do that. I just took you out just to give you a chance to, a few moments to plan or reorganize or something if you want to.
Right. Figure out what
I know Frey's technically raging, so that would be an option if you wanted to immediately just go into combat again. I would let you. Otherwise, you could back off for a bit and realize that, okay, there's an active event happening here that will enter turn-based mode pretty quickly.
Right.
Curious. I don't know if you can tell us, but I'm curious. What did you think about us doing? When you're playing this, what were your thoughts on okay, here's how they might handle this room or how they might do this?
I kind of expected. Well, two things. I expected for you guys to attack the Quaggas in that room, which you did.
Yeah.
And then that would be a complication because, okay, how are you going to deal with the fact that they're not just going to open the doors and say, okay, go in there, because the distance is just not long. They're going to see the thing there. They're going to leave the door open. It's going to start alerting people. So you can fight, indeed, but that could activate the whole room. I also thought, okay, maybe they're just going to hang back and watch this unfold, and they're gonna come in, see that the Mind Flayer's gone, and essentially that's going to start an alarm in this area, and then you're going to essentially have to start dealing with like Dwerger patrols and all this shit going on. Essentially the dungeon activates. So that begins a whole nother complication. I had notes about, okay, these guys go here, these guys go here. You know, and it becomes this, it essentially continues the stealth part of it. And you guys could potentially ambush different groups or however that works out.
Yeah.
Or you guys could have strode out there and basically did what Edmund did, which is just start a big fight. And then hopefully one of you or me, the DM, will kind of remember about this possible rebellion happening. And I thought, even in my notes, like, well, I mean, I just don't want to TPK them. But although I could, because these guys would not necessarily kill you, they would just strip you of all your shit and throw you in prison. So this gives me a chance to actually, I could TPK if I want to.
That is like, that's a scenario that I've heard a lot about, but we've never done it.
Mm-hmm. But what's nice is this is a situation like that, where these aren't like ghouls or just straight up monsters or something. These are just dudes who would probably capture you, which could be an interesting narrative thing to have happen. Mm-hmm. So that was always on the table. If you guys literally do aggro everything and don't do anything to start the rebellion, we'd probably play it out for a bit, but either you guys, some of you go down or whatever happens, it gets interesting, but we can end combat and you'll be thrown in prison. All this shit could happen.
Yeah.
Or, maybe I just decide, okay, some of these Dwergar realize that because this big fight's happening, they're going to start the rebellion now, word's going to spread, and they're just going to start fighting amongst each other, and that gives you guys more of a fighting chance. So I had a few different eventualities, but a lot of times, once you enter this kind of complication, I can't really plan for that. I just have to have notes about, what's going on, what, and who's going where if this happens, but ultimately it's kind of out of my hands, and just it's me responding to what you guys do.
Yeah.
That's fun. The moment I stepped up and just shouted out to him, you had to pause and think.
I love to see that. I love to see the DM mind blank moment. Just there's nothing there. It's just like, oh, I gotta reconvene and gather my thoughts.
Yeah, I think I did. Let's see. I did have that in my notes, but I was honestly not even looking at my notes much. I was looking at the screen and.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my notes just says. In fact, I said if Dearth is disrespectful or anything other than subservient, Zardarok will openly attack him. But Dearth could sway some. I called you Dearth in quotes in my notes. But Dearth could sway Dwergar to his side. So I did write those notes. I didn't have the thing I didn't have prepped was the dialogue that Zardarok would actually say. So that's what took me a moment to try to piece together. But and I made a special DM move where I was like, all right, he's gonna fucking do a cool just fucking blast you backwards, and that's gonna help get the party started.
You could have just said he can do this as a reaction.
Well, you guys don't know what he does, but he literally has a legendary, because it's legendary actions that he can do in between others' turns. So
he's one of those.
Yeah, he can just kind of blast.
He's a boss enemy. He can blast people with his reactions.
Yep. Yeah, you guys are just in a fascinating situation right now where you have activated this fight, but I've essentially let you at least temporarily back off from it.
Yeah. Raymond, at what point did you realize what you were going to do? Because you didn't realize it when you were walking in there. I know that.
When was the point? I think during the recap. I don't remember what the dialogue was. You might have started it off, or I can't remember what you said. But we slowly started that recap about Grandolpha.
Oh yeah. Well, before that, you decided to actually talk to the king. You decided to just announce your presence.
You strode up there and literally just walked up right to the edge and just shouted out and said, "I'm back."
Look at me.
I'm back, baby.
Well, so at that point, it's all right, he's going to activate this huge mech. or Charlene Beast. Once that happens, I mean, we're screwed. We can't do anything about it. And so my thought was, all right, I'm just gonna go and interrupt and stall as much as possible.
Okay, so even then, you did the rebellion thing wasn't quite formed yet.
The rebellion wasn't even in my head at that point. But yeah, I can't remember we'll have to watch the video or chat.
We did start talking about we did like the flashback and fill this in on the Grand
so the
stuff.
Flashback, and then so I was like, oh yes, that's right. The Grand
I think you might have brought it up, Chris, about the
right, because I just remembered at some point there was a question of like, are they loyal to the king or not?
Yeah,
because there were like some that weren't, some that were.
And that kind of triggered our conversation with Grandolpha, and so that's why I went with that.
Yeah. That was smart.
Yeah, it ended up working. I think it was great.
Yep.
Yeah, I was purely trying to stall, and I was like reading the room, trying to figure out what. Okay,
read the room.
One of the best comedy beats we've ever had on the show.
Oh my god!
Is when
he's done it multiple times, which is, and it kills me every time.
It only makes it funnier every time he does it.
He's got the MCU thing where it's like there's this awesome dramatic like superhero moment happening. The music is swelling, the camera's turning, everybody's looking awesome, and all of a sudden there's just a fucking gag like right there that just like diffuses it in a really funny way. And he just did that is at the very end, is like. And it's all about the genocider. Sweet, delicious genocider. Now with regicide.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's got to be a thing. Yeah. We need some fan art or something I can add as a thing on our landing page.
Yep.
Speaking of which, unfortunately we missed this. I have alerts for when I'm actually streaming, but I got a patron in between when we ended last session and started this Frostside chat, whose patron name is Genocider. So, and they're at the gold level, which means I will do a shout out of that name every week, assuming they remain a patron.
It's genius because that will remind us to keep the joke going.
That will remind, and it will be funny every fucking time. So, shout out to Genocider. I'll have to do a shout out, unfortunately, like for weeks from now, whenever we're back again.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That they were a new patron and just missed being announced. On the session, unfortunately, because of the in between, but that's fucking awesome.
Yep.
The in-jokes are what make a lot of these
yeah,
sessions and campaigns. I know we've had a lot of previous ones. Usually they're based around like NPCs or something.
Right.
But just, this is fucking funny.
Let's see if whenever you give a shout out, if like Reese and Rochelle notice anything.
Right.
Oh, right. Yeah. It's just not, yeah. Hopefully they watch these episodes, because that's the best thing about missing D&D and our games is that literally it's all recorded. So
yeah,
you can go back and watch what you missed. I did feel bad. That was the one thing that kept me at because I was alerted a couple hours before that they wouldn't be able to make it. And I thought, oh, do I want to somehow like block this off and skip it? And because it was a big, boss kind of cool moment, but I was like, nah, I don't want to artificially. And I was just excited to do it. So
yeah.
I ended up
We're still in the middle of it.
We're still in the middle of it, yeah, for sure. Yeah, you guys just barely, yeah. It's again, I made the comment, I think, before we went live with this, that you guys made so little progress physically in the dungeon, and yet actually progressed quite a bit in the like narrative of the dungeon,
right,
which
story,
is
yeah, exactly,
yeah, because it's everything was just kind of magically waiting for you to trigger that room was the way I was doing it. I don't do what a lot of DMs do. We just have this, oh, you rested 2 times. Well, this quest is now gone. It's
right.
You guys are still the center of attention. And in this case, yeah, this room was basically waiting for you guys to trigger it, and you did. And then and you did it so in a magnificent big way that changes the dynamic of this entire dungeon. Even though you guys barely made it out of the interrogation room that you started in, you went north, went up barely a hallway. I talked about all these different doors and rooms, but then you trigger the room, and then you guys go back into the temple room and fight.
Or most of us went back.
Yeah,
exactly.
I don't know if you guys even, except for Raymond, got a big look at the fucking forge room.
I did when I shut the doors. When Valravn teleported up there to shut the door, I got a really good look at everything in there. Yeah. It was terrifying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and talk about it's an interesting complication for the players to deal with, and a really hard one for the DM when you have literally just lots of units on the board. And you're like, how do I even, mechanically do this? And thankfully, the rebellion is built in where it's like, oh, well, I just hand wave a lot of these fights. Like, it's
you're like, okay, they're all fighting each other, so they're not.
Here's
they're
ones
not
that survive.
tokens.
So I don't have to worry about that. Now, if you guys wade in there and start fighting, then that gets a little trickier. But maybe that's a cool, epic, session-long battle too. I'm frankly hoping it does turn into a, at least a boss fight at some point. So, I can use that. To me, the worst thing happens if you guys just straight up like leave this whole area, and then I have to be like, okay, what happens now? And I was in dungeon goes alert, and they send people, but yeah, obviously they'll be alerted to the fact that there's danger around you.
Pretty cool to have like us fighting the boss while all around us are fighting each other. Like
that's kind of what I'm alluding to. Happening. Yeah, essentially that's the scenario I've crafted. I'm just giving you guys a chance to like regroup briefly and decide how to jump back in. But yeah, that's the situation.
That's the situation. This is a great session. I loved it.
It was fun. Yeah, this has been a really cool area. You guys have still only probably seen. You might have seen half this dungeon by now.
Oh, really? Wow.
I think.
Still a lot more.
Yeah.
I mean, this area does seem huge. Like,
you saw. Yeah, the first session you were here, you saw all of that one level. Last session, technically, Raymond saw the top level.
Mm-hmm.
And then you guys just scratched the surface on this bottom one. And then this session, you guys, like I said, really didn't make much progress in the actual dungeon itself. You just saw the giant forge room, which is a big part of it. But that's only really just begun. So there's still a bit left. I was hoping the timing would be cool where we would end this area because that would be a good stopping point. But like you said, sometimes it can be nice. Hopefully not what Walking Dead did in that one season, but it can be nice to leave on a cool cliffhanger.
What was it? Was it the Negan bat?
It was thing? The Negan. Yeah, he literally they show you that he kills. Spoiler for whatever 4 seasons ago of Walking Dead.
Yeah, years ago.
Yeah, back when people watched that show. I think I'm the only one that still watches it, and I haven't caught up to the last season. They showed him killing somebody, and you don't see who it is, and then it ends. That's the finale for months, and people were so fucking pissed about that. Rightfully so, I think.
Cliffhangers, which I don't want to spoil anything for you, but I don't know if you finish Arcane. But cliffhangers.
No, don't tell me anything about Arcane. I'm still watching it.
Okay,
don't tell me anything about Arcane.
I'll just say
I'm halfway through. I love that show. Shout out to Arcane.
It's great. Arcane is great.
I just watched episode 4 or 5, I think.
Okay.
And each one has been better than the last. I'm so impressed by it.
Yeah, it's great. But if you're writing a TV show, just remember cliffhangers aren't fun for the audience. They're frustrating for the audience. We don't enjoy them. I get the rationale, like, oh, we're gonna keep their interest for all the months
season finales. The thing you should do, I think Marvel's nailed this very well. They don't, the story should be complete, but then you can add a fun little stinger at the end.
That's it. Like,
but don't
what you're doing.
Complete what you're doing.
Yeah, and then add like
tease the next story.
Lost to that great Weird seasons when it would like complete what it was talking about, but then it would have some twist at the very end of the season.
It would make you excited. It would make you excited to start the next season, but not feel like, oh god, they didn't complete the story. Like it's left at the climax, which is what Walking Dead fucked up.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a good side tangent, but yes, that's a good.
From that point on, Walking Dead was just off rhythm, where it would have climaxes would happen at the mid-season finale. And then their season finale would always be like a cliffhanger. It was just all sorts of nonsense.
That's very fair. Yep. Welcome to our Walking Dead.
Welcome to our rant about pacing television shows.
Yep. All right, is this gonna do it for Frostside chat? Like I said, I think we're off the next 2 weeks. I don't see us being able to, with all the holidays and things, trying to squeeze an extra episode in, and frankly, it would be a crazy one to do anyway. That I don't know if I'd want to do. Like, we're gonna do it on Tuesday or something because it's such a big.
I mean, I'm gonna be in Texas, so I would be on a laptop at best.
Yeah, it's not a great situation.
Yeah.
I'll hopefully come up with some stuff to fill the void in terms of the channel. But in terms of doing D&D, I think we're gonna be on void just the way it ended up, where all the holiday stuff's on a Friday this year.
On a Friday, yeah.
Yeah, it must have happened once before. I've been doing this for years, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, we will at this point return in 2022 with more D&D.
Yes, indeed. 2022, with the Battle of the Dorger Forge will happen.
Pretty awesome. All right. Thank you to Chris, Raymond. I'm Eric. Thank you to all the wonderful fans, patrons, everything for an awesome year of D&D.
Yes, indeed.
Have a wonderful, safe holiday break. See you next year.
Bye.
Bye.